Greetings, Tenno. Are you confused about where to farm resources? Are you trying to build your first Archwing? Can't build that prime frame because you're out of Orokin Cells? Maybe I can help. Now, before we get into where or how to farm each resource, let's start by talking about the things that will assist you. A good farming frame will drastically speed up the process of getting most resources by forcing enemies to drop more of them. It's not required to have a farming frame, but especially for hard to obtain resources such as Tellurium and Argon Crystals, you'll be happy you had one. Check my video about farming frames for my personal thoughts on which to go for first. The next aid you can use are boosters. There are 3 versions of boosters that you can obtain. Market boosters, which you have to pay platinum for. A 3-day booster isn't that expensive, and it's great to grab when you know you're going to do some dedicated farming. The boosters you get from login rewards are the same style of booster that you can get from the market, so if you happen to get one of those after you already bought one, it's just going to extend the timer on a booster that you already have. Relay boosters are different from the ones you get from the market. If you go to any relay, you can ask in chat for the type of booster you need, and hopefully someone will bless you. Once you hit MR30, you'll be able to give blessings out yourself once per day, but by that point you probably won't need this video anymore. The last type of booster you can acquire is an event booster. These are given to everyone by DE during special events, most notably during their anniversary event every March. On a side note, if you know an affinity booster is approaching, like from the anniversary event, that's a great time to start building a mass of items and just stock them up in your foundry. Then when the event happens, you can buy a market booster, get a relay blessing, and have a triple XP boost. This will let you level new warframes and weapons in just a couple of minutes, and it'll boost your mastery level dramatically. The final aid we can look at for resource farming is companions. There are 3 primary companions that can get you extra loot. The Cheshire Kubro has a chance to scavenge additional loot from enemies, which is essentially a weaker version of Desecrate from Necros. The boon that the Kubro version has is that it can also work on containers, which Desecrate won't. This is my primary companion for farming. The Smita has the Charm Precept mod. This has a few effects that it can do, but one of them is to just give you a rare resource from the planet that you're on. This is okay, but it's a little too RNG for my liking. I pretty much only use my Smita for leveling in the hopes that Charm pops the affinity boost. Oxalis is great for 2 situations. You're fishing, or you're trying to do the Silver Grove quest. Buying Oxalis will save you a lot of standing wasted on dyes, plus it tells you where hotspots are, which allows you to catch rarer fish. And having Oxalis along while you just do missions, especially while you're farming Samara standing, will also load you up on plants to make the apothecs you need for the Silver Grove quest and for its mods. But wait, I hear you ask. Doesn't Helios do the same thing? Kind of, but not really. Helios will scan plants, but after the first 5, your codex entry for that item will be completed and Helios will ignore them. Oxalis will keep scanning them forever. With the assistance out of the way, let's go get those resources. I'll try to lay these out in the order you're most likely to need them on your journey. Credits drop in every mission, but for new players there are 2 primary ways to target farm them. First is to do dark sectors. There's one on every planet and they have this icon. Dark sectors give a lot of credits for a new player, so they're worth farming a couple of rounds before you get to the index. Keep in mind that the first mission you do after reset every day will also double your credits. So when you're first starting out, it's a good idea to claim your login reward, then immediately go do a dark sector. You'll feel like you're swimming in credits in no time. The next step for credits is to do the index, which is found on Neptune. This is harder than doing dark sectors, especially when you first start, but it's a lot more profitable. A couple of tips for the index. Launch it from your dojo or a relay. There are actually 2 different index maps, and launching it from the console in your orbiter gives a random chance of getting either map, but for some reason, launching it from your dojo or a relay guarantees getting the good map. Don't waste your time on the lower levels. The enemies are honestly not that much harder on the high-risk version, and you get over double the profit from it. Do it either in a coordinated squad or solo. This is one of the rare missions in Warframe that I would never do on public matchmaking. If you roll solo, here's the Wukong build that I use to farm the index, along with the Phantasma and either the Zorus or the Broken War. I preferred the Broken War because I just don't like glaives in this game. You'll hear veterans talk about Profit Taker for credits, and it is faster and dramatically more profitable than the index, but that's for much later in the game and you'll need a dedicated build for that. I'm not gonna lie, Plastids are really hard to farm at the very beginning of the game. You can get enough to build Rhino from low-level Cetus or Fortuna bounties, but it's better to just get little bits at a time while you're going through the Earth missions. Once you get to Phobos and beyond, they'll start dropping more regularly, and you can hit the Zugma Dark Sector to dual farm Plastids and credits. For that reason, I'd wait to try to build Nezha until at least Phobos in your journey. Eventually you'll have so many Plastids that you'll forget that they were hard to farm. Most veteran players probably just cocked their eyebrow at this one. Where to get Grokdrul and Iradite is simple. You get them on the plains of Eidolon. But I remember finding it difficult to get enough to build my Arcwing. This is what I ended up doing that made it simple. Go to Fortuna first and get your K-Drive. You don't have to actually build a K-Drive, just add the launcher to your gear wheel and the game will give you one. Go to Cetus and choose the highest level bounty. It doesn't matter if you can't kill things at that level yet, we're not fighting anyone. Drive around on your K-Drive and shoot Iradite and Grokdrul containers with your secondary. Iradite will be all over, Grokdrul will be near Grineer encampments. It doesn't matter if you go down, you have 5 revives. Once you've collected as much as you can, drive back to Cetus and go through the door to keep your rewards. It doesn't matter that we failed the bounty. Repeat until you have enough. The reason we've gone for the highest bounty level is because the resource containers will drop more of the resource when the level is higher. You'll need a lot of these to build warframes as you go, but they're another resource that you'll have in abundance later. Early game, you're going to get these from the very first Earth mission or the Earth Dark Sector, again giving the bonus of getting extra credits at the same time. Later, you can get these on a spoiler planet that you'll discover after you do the second Dream Quest. For mutagen masses, Fieldron, and Detonite injectors, get them from invasions. Trying to build these from their little samples will not only take forever, but it will also completely bankrupt your Plastid supply. Listen to me, Baby Tenno. They are not worth it. You want to be doing invasions anyway because you can get weapons and potatoes from them. As an aside, I am MR30 and I did not build every single dojo weapon. Don't waste your precious Forma on the MR fodder ones, and for the ones that you are going to make, get these parts from invasions instead of using all your resources. If I'm being honest, you won't need much Oxium after your Arcwing segment until you try to build Valbin Prime. There is no easy way to get this, as you can only get it from Oxium Ospreys on Corpus planets. Aside from the Arcwing Launcher and Valbin Prime, you'll mostly need this for making open world resources, and those are only small amounts. In terms of farming frames, Korra is actually really good for this one because Ospreys can get stuck in her Strangle Dome and stop them from self-destructing. You can also get Oxium from open world bounties, but I don't think it's worth it. Valbin Prime strikes again, or maybe you want the Saber. Don't build the Saber unless you've already got practically everything in the game. It's an awful weapon, even with its incarnate adapter. The only way to get Cryotic is to do excavation missions. If you're farming frames from the circuit, go ahead and watch my video to find out which frames are worth farming. Thank you. But also, you'll get a lot of Cryotic from the excavation missions in the circuit. I got enough for Valbin and Trinity Prime without having to intentionally do excavations. If you are target farming Cryotic, go ahead and do excavations on Corpus planets so you can also get Oxium. You'll need a mountain of these to build both regular and primed warframes. The absolute best place to farm these is in Helene on Saturn. Whenever you're leveling a new frame or weapon, go on public and go to Helene on Saturn. Veterans will tell you to level on Phobos, but Helene enemies can drop Orokin Cells, and the experience gained on Phobos isn't that much higher. Even better if there's a Void Fisher on Helene, because then you can level items, farm Orokin Cells, and crack relics all at the same time. These come from the Void. You definitely want a farming frame and possibly a resource booster if you're trying to get a lot of them. The best missions for Argon Crystals are endless, so you're looking at defense or survival in the Void. For defense, any farming frame is fine. For survival, I actually prefer Necros so I can move around. And don't forget to open lockers in the Void as well. I seem to get more crystals out of those than I do from actual enemy drops. These are obviously found in open worlds, but the best bet is to check the wiki to see which node or lake the resource you need is in. Make sure to build Oxalis and bring him for fishing. I did want to make you aware of something in regards to open world mining though. The blessing from a relay is a resource drop chance booster, not a regular resource booster. This can affect your mining because some of the ores and gems that you need a lot of, such as Traveride, which I never have enough of, will actually have less of a chance to drop if you have a relay booster on. Traveride is common, and the relay booster increases the chance of rare drops. Check the rarity of what you need on the wiki before hitting that relay. The two ways to farm this are either through open world bounties or Uko in the Void. If you're going the bounty route, you want to go solo or in a coordinated team. There are optimal ways to farm Aya from bounties, but that's a little beyond the scope of this video. I prefer doing Deimos bounties for Aya. There's not a great way to get Endo in the early game. It's affected by mod drop chance boosters, but the best way to get it early is through Deimos bounties. If you have a dedicated team, you can farm the arena missions on Sedna, but that's better once you get to the Steel Path version, and you should absolutely not try to do that solo. If you've already unlocked them, arbitrations are a decent source of Endo as well. And once you get to the 1999 expansion, which is the final expansion at the time of this video, you'll have a lot more resources of solo Endo farming, but early game I would just do Deimos bounties and farm Aya at the same time. So you've finished the War Within and you need to build an amp. The best way to get your initial 111 amp, which outclasses the mode amp in every way, is to farm Vomvalist on the plains of Eidolon. I highly recommend Ivara for this, because she'll double the Sentient Cores that you get from them. Ivara and a resource booster will likely get you all the cores you need in a single night. See my Ivara video for more detail. Now you've got all the cores you need, but you need those obnoxious Cetus Wisps to build your amps. Lucky for you, Cetus Wisps are ridiculously easy to farm. All you need is a loot radar mod and an Arcwing. Head out into the plains, pop your Arcwing, and fly next to the bodies of water. You're looking for a loot box that's basically touching the water. That's normally a Cetus Wisp. You can fly around all the bodies of water on the plains in about 90 seconds. After you find one Cetus Wisp, just head back through the door and go again. I've never seen two in one map. They will double with a resource booster, by the way. Oh, so now you want a meta amp. You're going to need Toroids. This is the most painful farm in the game, and there are two ways to do it. The niche way is to fly around in your Arcwing with a loot radar mod, just like we did for the Cetus Wisps. This time you're looking for 3 objects right next to each other inside of a cave. If you see it, it'll be Toroids, but this method takes forever and isn't very effective. The real way can be done solo or in a team. If you're in a team, which is the better way, you want a Korra or Hydroid and at least one Necros. Check the wiki for the type of Toroid you need, head to that specific area, and raise the alert level to maximum. Now sit there. Forever. Killing and looting. If you're doing it solo, you can use Hydroid or Korra, but I strongly recommend using Ivara. She can pickpocket Toroids in addition to what drops from killing enemies. Regardless of which method you use, it is 100% worth it to buy a resource booster from the market before you start this mess. Make sure you farm enough Toroids for your Amps, Garuda, Baruch, and to level up the Secret Syndicate and Fortuna when you do this so you don't have to do it again. I'd rather farm Thermia Fractures again. You'll also need a mountain of this to build Arc Wings and Primed Warframes. The reason I saved it for after the War Within is because of the second method you can use to get it. The first method is to go to Ophelia in Uranus and camp in a corner. I strongly prefer Hydroid for this, and that's how I got most of my Tellurium as a new player. The second, later in the game method to get Tellurium is to do Railjack. It's not really listed on the wiki, but I tend to get a huge amount of Tellurium whenever I do Railjack missions. The Kuva Fortress, especially the Tavuni survival mission, is the best place to farm this early game. You can also get a lot of neurosensors there. If you haven't killed your first Kuva Lich and you don't have all the mods yet, go ahead and do the Kuva Relic missions. You can get Kuva out of those as well. Honestly, if you're not trying to roll ribbons, you'll probably get all you need by just turning in your ribbon slivers every week after finishing the Chains of Harrow quest. The best place to farm Thrax Plasm is through Void Cascade, but I despise Void Cascade, so the second best place to farm it is through mobile defense missions in the Zariman. Thrax will show up at every console. Steel Path bounties and or a resource booster is recommended if you're going to do it through mobile defense. Some brief notes about Duviri. The map on the wiki is your best friend when farming Duviri resources, but I do have a couple of other tips. You don't actually have to finish Duviri, so I drop every decree reroll right at the start to look for the resource drops or double decree. Make sure to complete a challenge and earn a decree before leaving, that way you keep everything you farmed. For this reason, I prefer to do the experience rather than the lone story when I'm farming. It means I can feed the maw or win a Kvaith race or something that doesn't require combat before I leave. If you do the lone story, you have to do whatever they give you, plus you might not be able to feed the maw at all, and that has 2 resources associated with it. When you leave, the resources will reset, but the decrees and missions will stay the same until the spiral changes. This means that if you got the double drops from Plant's Decree right at the beginning and you go right back in after you exit, you'll get that decree again. Finally, please do not farm for resources on public matchmaking. Go in solo so you're not disturbing anyone else's game. You're not trying to finish the spiral anyway unless you're trying to farm Kalervo, which should be done separately from general resource farming. A few tips for resource farming in general. Look for fissures based on where you're trying to farm. If you already have to do a mission to get the resources, you might as well crack relics while you're at it. You can see what the rare resource for each planet is in the corner of your UI. The wiki is still the best source of information, but the star chart does give you a quick glance at what you can expect. In the same vein, use extractors. They're especially helpful for things like Orokin Cells and neural sensors. Remember that there are 2 different kinds of resource boosters. The orange one and the event booster gives you double drops. The blue one and the relay blessing give you increased chance of rare drops. Plan accordingly, especially when mining. Hopefully this guide helps you find those resources that you need. Let me know if there's anything else you want to see.